Well, with me here is Mark Fairhurst, who chairs the Prison Officers Association. And joining us from Gloucester is John Podmore, who served as a prison governor and as an inspector of prisons. Can I come to you first, John Podmore? What do you make of that? The sheer level of organisation, it would seem, the fact that even families outside are being threatened with violence to pay these debts.
Well, it's no surprise to me. I've been writing about this for years. Serious organised crime is seriously well organised in prison. And, you know, here we see effectively a mafia-style protection racket where families have been suffering. But we've known the drug problem in prisons for a long time. It's worse now than it ever has, but we've never, until now, properly asked the question, who pays? And if you extrapolate up from this particular case, I would say that the illicit drug economy in prisons is worth about £1 billion, and it needs to be tackled. But it's not about evanescent ministers who come and go and secretaries of state and prison ministers. It's about leadership, management and culture of the prison and probation service itself.
I mean, as you say, the scale of this problem is quite extraordinary. The Chief Inspector of Prisons recently said he was in a prison where there were more people under the influence of drugs than sober, and in another jail where a fifth of prisoners said they developed a drug habit only once they're inside prison. So why isn't there more focus on this, or what is going wrong here?
Well, I mean, the prison service has demonstrated in this case just don't seem to care. It works quite well for them in a sense, because if you have this level of serious organised crime, you're not going to get prison disturbances, because serious organised criminals are not going to allow for disturbances while a lot of money is being made. But yes, we have an excellent Chief Inspector of Prisons who's been talking about this for some time, about people going in clean and coming out addicted. Now, the very least we should do in prisons is do no harm, but the prison service, not just with drugs, but with employment, education and training, is doing a considerable amount of harm. And as I say, this is about leadership and management and culture. Everyone talks about overcrowding. Yes, we have an overcrowding problem, but one of the prisons that Charlie Taylor went in and observed a major drug problem was a prison called Wood Hill, which is a modern, purpose-built prison, well-resourced and not overcrowded. So this is not just about old Victorian crumbling city jails.
Let me bring in Mark Fairhurst. I mean, it is clear that drugs get into prisons in a variety of ways, and no one suggests that there are huge numbers of prison officers involved. But there are prison officers involved, and that is a part of the problem, isn't it?
Well, it's not for me to deny that there are corrupt staff. There are corrupt staff in every public sector service, including the police. Ourselves are no exemption, but we are doing a lot to tackle that. And what I will say is that the majority of staff are hardworking, decent, honest people. We don't want to work with corrupt staff. We want them rooted out, kicked out, prosecuted and incarcerated for their crimes.
But I mean, are they part of what people are saying is a serious organised crime network operating within the jails? You heard Julie say a prison officer came to her house to deliver drugs to her son.
That is really concerning, but we can only act if we've got the intelligence. So we need intelligence from prisoners' families. We have regional anti-corruption teams who work in conjunction with the police. But we can do more. There are measures in place, including security at the gate. But we can do more. We need to be more robust with lockdown searches, with target searches. Unfortunately, governors in prisons these days are more concerned with regime, instead of safety.
I mean, you say that not a lot of officers are involved, but figures show the number of prison officers being investigated in relation to the supply of drugs in prison has gone up significantly in the past 3 years. So this is a problem that's getting worse. Do you acknowledge that?
It is a problem that's more highlighted now because we have better procedures in place and regional teams in place to look into this and gather intelligence and act.
I mean, John Podmore, prisoners we spoke to were very, very clear that there is a lot of money to be made. The government says it has put up pay to help the recruitment drive, so there are more prison officers. They say they're spending £100 million to improve security to stop drugs getting in. Why does it not appear to be working?
Well, we have a real problem at the moment about the vulnerability of staff. And it's absolutely right that the majority of prison officers are hardworking and dedicated. Now, if you were to say that in any one cohort of prison officers, there was 100 who were corrupt. Now, in my experience, the vast majority of those are not criminally, they're by criminal intent, they're not malicious, they're not malign, but they have been conditioned, manipulated, threatened. We're talking now about honey traps. Staff are very, very vulnerable, and dealing with corruption properly. And I'm sorry, the prison service is not dealing with corruption properly. It trots out these technical measures. This is a people business. It's not just about having scanners at the gate. It's about leadership. It's management. It's training. And some prisons now do pay a good salary, but prison officers need to be led and they need to be protected. And in order to protect them, there needs to be a much greater focus on the role of serious organised crime in prisons.
I mean, it's a culture problem. That is about your people, isn't it?
It is a leadership issue, because when they're obsessed with unlocking prisons with absolutely nothing to do for the sake of unlock, to look good in front of a increasingly out-of-touch chief inspector, then that has a knock-on effect. What I'm saying is we need to get back to basics. Don't forget that the prison service has been subject to over £900 million worth of cuts from this government. They disbanded dog sections in local prisons like Wandsworth, which would have prevented throwovers. It would have had sniffer dogs at the gate to go through staff and prisoners. They disbanded those dog sections. They haven't invested enough in training on how to recognise how you're getting conditioned as a new member of staff. So there are more robust procedures that we can incur in our prisons to prevent all this. It does need to be tackled, but it needs to be tackled at the front line robustly with support from senior leaders.
Mark Fairhurst and John Podmore, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to end it there. Thank you very much for talking to us this evening.